Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today I'm doing another indie horror spotlight. I have with us today a filmmaker. He has put out a new film, which is whoa, and it's called Dariuss. I have my man Gorilla Metropolitana. Gorilla, welcome to the Horror Room.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you so much, Travis. Thank you.
Pleasure. And so, all right, so I've had the pleasure of screening Dariuss, but tell my audience a little bit about it first.
Dariuss is a film that was originally conceived as a 15-minute short film, a home invasion kind of thing. But then, as idea developed, it became more clear it was going to be a film, but more like a journey rather than a traditional film, a journey into madness, loss, perversion, and horror. So it just came natural for me to have this hallucination because the film was largely conceived in a state of trance. So I kept on putting all these visions together until it came out as it is. So more like a surreal journey of complete hallucination and madness and just total insanity. Yeah.
I totally agree. Now, let me put a warning out there. This movie is not for everyone. This is not for the faint of hearts. This is not for, there's a lot of, another word, the term is triggers. There's a lot of triggers there. This is, if you're a casual horror fan, this is not for you. Like, this is hardcore. Like I said, I had the privilege of seeing the screening, and madness, I can see it being a hallucination because, I mean, and I described that, I actually did a review of it, and I describe it as a disturbing masterpiece. And that's what it is. Now, and I mean, listen, there's a lot of perversion in there as well, man. I mean, it's been a while since I've watched a film, and 24 hours later, that disturbing feeling is still in my stomach, you know? And I mean, you did an amazing job. Now, when you were making this film, was that the intent that you wanted for a watcher to have that overlasting disturbing feeling in them?
When I made the film, Travis, the idea was to create a Chinese box-like story that you open one and you find another one, and then another one, and then another one, until the viewer himself or herself goes in a complete state of ambiguity and madness, because the film does not have one particular clear direction. It gives you a very basic structure and then a multiple series of reflections and echoes in which images and sounds, they bounce against each other, and the viewer can make his own interpretation of what he's seeing. There are some very basic structures there that are indicative, but then the rest, it's really down to personal interpretations, you know. And the film does not give answers because the filmmaker himself behind it didn't want to give any answer because he didn't have one. He only had the hypothesis of what really happened to the poor girl. Because if you watch the film carefully, there's no answers to what really happened. You only speculate, oh, it might have been that character, or maybe the other one, or maybe the other one indirectly. That's, I think, the real strength of the film. The fact that it can communicate on multiple levels with the audience without without spoon feeding the public with information, and most importantly, without creating a story where the audience is judgmental. Oh, I don't like that character, or I do like that character. There's no sympathy or anything like that. But at the same time, you don't really hate anybody because everybody is dysfunctional, and ultimately the viewer finds it difficult to detach himself from what he's witnessing because the film is being shot using meta cinema, using two different techniques of filming, one with a hand camera and one traditional. So you really feel as if you're witnessing what you are about to see and what you are seeing. There's a lot of dirty sexuality, there's a lot of perversion, there's a lot of gore, but that is not the strength of the film. The film relies on the fact that it's so powerful just with visuals and sounds, and it does not have any filters. It doesn't have any filters. I mean, I don't have any problem with hardcore sexuality at all. Female, male, either way, in the film, you can see everything. And it's literally an act of rebellion towards not only mainstream cinema, but also politically correct independent cinema. Especially when it comes down to sexuality. I didn't want to use any filters, but again, not because of the spirit of shock value, but because I wanted to tell the story the way I wanted to tell it, with no filters and very libertine style. I'm always regarded myself as a filmmaker, a libertine. I don't circle myself with taboos. Oh, that I don't do, or maybe I should not go that far. I push the gas all the way down, and if the film needs that, yeah, absolutely. The film has its own life, Travis. If I start dictating to my film what should be there and what should not be there, then the film becomes dead, if that makes sense. The film has its own life, and the way I see it, I just let the dogs loose and see what comes out of it.
You definitely did. And in my review, wanted to say, I even told you this as well. It is visually cinematography. I mean, the cinematography is a piece of art. You know what I mean? It is beautifully shot. The creativity behind it, between the jumps and the lighting, as well as, so there's no verbal communication in this movie between the actors. But the score, the little sound, the rain, the water drops. Every once in a while, you might hear a fucking elephant or a horse or something. Like, there's all of these things that the music alone scares the shit out of you. It grabs you in more so than any script or any actor or actress saying anything. And one thing about this movie is, like you were saying, is for me as someone who's watching as an audience, it kept me engaged because I was waiting for answers. I was waiting for some kind of conclusion. I was waiting for some kind of, okay, but no, it 100% forces you to come up to the conclusions yourself.
Yes. Yeah. If you enter a dark room, you are scared automatically, regardless of what you think you might be seeing. I like to compare my film really using a metaphor, which I always use as the dark room of orgy. Um, you you get in and you don't know what's going to happen, if you're going to get killed, if you're going to get sodomized, if you're going to be tortured, or anything. But you're willing out of your own choice to open that door and start walking. And whether or not you're going to be sodomized, killed, tortured, or whatever, that's a choice you make. And still, regardless everything, you're still willing to go all the way down. This film, one of the things I've noticed from people who actually saw the film is that they could not take their eyes off the screen.
Yes.
It's very addictive because it's not a type of film that you can just looking up your phone or have a cup of coffee and then come back or whatever. It's a film that requires your full attention because there's no dialogue. It's purely visual and sonic, and that puts the viewer in a condition that he really can't afford the luxury to just get up and go. And then when the film ends, the viewer finds himself totally shocked and memorizing information of the film that wasn't even there for long. Let me be more clear. The film is filled with subliminal messages, both visual and sound-wise. We used over 2,000 different sounds for this film. Between 2,000 and 3,000 with my technical assistant, Fabrizio Lamonica, which appears in the film as Archibald Kane. He's also a filmmaker himself from Sicily. He recently done a film on his own called Day Dark. And he's been helping me during the editing because the vision that I had was to create something that the viewer could memorize with his brain, but not with his eyes, at least not every time. And brainwashing, there's a lot of technique used, which is not too far off from hypnosis in this film. There are images and sounds that disturb the viewer, but he or she doesn't know what exactly was the cause of disturbance. And often what became clear was that it was those little sounds used electronically, modified, reversed, and filtered and put throughout the film on and off, mixed with other sounds and images that created the nightmare, if I can use that word. So it really is a nightmare, Travis. It's a real nightmare that you're witnessing, and you don't know what to make out of it. So that was the reason why this film was so difficult to make and to edit. It cost me 3 mental breakdowns because the amount of work and ideas and I just wanted to tell a story without using one word. And my previous works, which were short films, again, visuals, no dialogue, they were the beginning of my journey that will later led to the actual film, which is Dariuss. And I've always been obsessed with images and sounds. My background is music and art. So I'm good at, in both fields. So to me, the transition to cinema has been very natural, but not using traditional cinema formats, but using the formats that I know, which are music and images, but images more like in painting like, but using actors. The acting is visual. It relies on mimics, body language, expression, and whether it is about despair or psychosis or madness or whatever, everything had to be um, told with the power of the body. So the mouth, as in spoken words, um, really becomes unnecessary in this film.
Mhm. And the actresses, actually the actor as well, they do such a great job without saying anything, without any sound, expressing the madness that they're going through, or the tragic event that they're going through, or even the sexual pleasure they're going through. They did such an amazing job. Now, when it came to selecting individuals for these specific roles, did you already have someone in mind, or did you have to go out and cast?
Casting. For Dariuss in particular, I had in mind Il Argento, which happened to be the female protagonist in this film. She played in Italy minor roles in independent Italian horror films. She comes from stage. Her background is theater, and for her, it was a complete new territory to act and perform visually. She didn't have any problem with nudity. She flew from Italy to join me here in London for a couple of days for filming. And she joined the other actress here in London, and the two of them performed for about 2 days. I didn't have any problem in Dariuss when it comes down to sexuality. Contrary to my next film, which I've been casting for nearly 2 years, and finally found the actresses willing to go down that road. But in Dariuss, no. Luckily, I didn't have any problem in finding actresses, even because actresses, I am very harsh on when it comes down to actresses. If I smell even the slightest any kind of radical feminist slash politically correct attitude, that I don't do, that is sexist, that is misogynist, sorry, I don't do it. Okay, that's the door. Fuck off.
Yeah,
So
I mean, to be in that role, you have to be 100% open.
you have to be very open, Travis, because to me, women, especially women, they are beautiful miracles involved in my film, in this specific instance, that at the end I have to be able to seduce in my own way with my own cinema. So if I ask the actress, okay, get undressed and start touching yourself, I'm walking with her into a journey of madness and perversion. If she says I don't do it, it means she's not on the same frequency. She has to be willing to get rid of all taboos and get rid of all sense of shame if the story requires it. The same is for men, not only for women, because in Dariuss you also have men doing things.
Yes.
So if I say to you, Travis, okay, you're gonna be in my next film. There's one scene in which I want you to masturbate. In that specific case, you have to be ready to face the volcano.
Yeah.
If you start saying, "Oh, can we use a stunt? Can we use somebody else for that particular scene?" Then I will say to you, "Then what's the point in casting you, Travis? I might as well cast him instead." So for me, actresses and actors are people who are willing to go with me all the way down to the end of the tunnel, because they are the face of my cinema. Even though I might appear as an actor, I am not the face of my cinema, but my actresses are. So if they are on the front, representing my cinema with their body, and they are not willing to go all the way, that my vision doesn't get fulfilled. It's like a painter with his models in front of him. They have to be completely pure in whatever the vision requires. So, politically correct actresses, I had many good actresses candidates for other projects, and I trashed them all, because as soon as they started saying, I don't do nude, I don't do sexually oriented scenes or whatever, the answer is always the same. That's the door. Goodbye.
Because that must be hard as well to find male and women actors and actresses that don't mind crossing the other side and being physical with someone of the same sex, which you definitely see in your film.
Yeah, at the end, I mean, I think it comes down to mindset. I don't have any problem with nudity myself. I posed nude, so I don't have any problem if men or women see me. And I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one in the entire world. So there are many people out there who have the same kind of renegade spirit and say, yeah, why not?
Oh no, I meant like to have a same-sex sex scene in a movie.
Yeah.
You know, so like I mean, there's you have to find the right person, actor or actress, that's willing to do that, especially in Dariuss, where there is same-sex sex scenes.
Yeah, again, it goes back to the same point, mindset. The mindset that the actresses in this particular case had was like, fuck it, okay, let's do it. You know, it's like, parachuting, Travis. If you do it, you go like, okay, I'm scared, but you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna jump and do it. And sometimes it's just as easy as that. I am a filmmaker that I'm not difficult on the set at all. Actually, I'm quite the opposite. I'm very bubbly. We had a laugh during filming, I remember. It was terrific. I mean, the actress was walking around naked, and we were joking about it, and it was cool. It was beautiful, and so I think it's down to mindset. In this film, I've been lucky to find the right actress, and also the other one as well, who were willing to do certain things without paying too much attention. They were like, okay, yeah, let's do it. If that's your vision, yeah, do it. And the same for the actor, who is, like I say, is also a technical editing assistant in the film. there's a scene in which he does something in front of a painting, and he said, "Yeah, why not?" So, you know, and again, I use you as an example. Okay, Travis, you're gonna be my next film. You know, you're gonna be having simulated sex with me or another guy, and then you're gonna get killed. You know, if your mindset is renegade, you don't really care. Oh, they might be thinking of me that I am this or that. You go like, it's a film, it's an art form, so fuck it, you know.
And it's something like my mindset would be like, nah, I ain't doing that shit. But like I give to be a real art. I mean, like wow, to get to that point where you're like, fuck it. I mean, that you are a master of your craft. You're a master of your trade. You are at that point. It's all about the art. It's all about the film. It's all about the project.
Yes,
and
yes.
An amazing mindset for any artist, actor, or actress to be in, to be able to go, this is whatever is in here is going out. I'm going with motion.
Yeah, exactly. And that is that is the spirit that I always have when I whether I make a short film or a film. The next film, the manufacturers will be much more sexual. And that was, for example, extremely difficult to cast because I cast over, candidates. I had more than 70, 80 candidates. And for one reason or another, either they were not serious or their husbands didn't want them to do the role or whatever the fuck else. And I say, okay, until I found the right ones. Now, one will be coming from your country, from the United States next year for 2 days shooting. And she's a real warrior. And she say, if that's your vision, I'll go all the way. And she's a married woman, you know, she's a real professional, she's an actress, but she's also an artist, you see. She doesn't see evil in nudity. And in Dariuss is the same thing. In Dariuss, sexuality, whether it's same-sex sexuality or not, or masturbation, or even necrophilia, which appears in the film, that is just part of the journey.
Yeah.
That is just part of the journey. The film is not about that. The film is about madness. And when you are in a state of madness, again, I use the metaphor, you are entering the dark room of orgy. You don't know if you're going to be sodomized, tortured, or killed. Or maybe all of them things, you know.
At once, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what Dariuss is. At the end of the day, it's the ultimate experience. It's not a film where you figure everything out after 15 minutes. Oh, yeah, I get it now. I get it. No, you don't get it because I didn't get it myself. So if I didn't get it, how can you get it? So the film is being done in a certain way that everybody who's going to watch this thing is going to give a different interpretation. If you watch the same thing, let's say, in 2 months' time, if you watch Dariuss in 2 months or 3 months from now, you will see different things. At the end of the day, you don't know who killed the girl. You don't even know who Dariuss is because the film does not tell you.
Because okay, so, and I probably will watch it a second time because the first time it was more like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? It was, I guess in my brain, I probably missed a lot because I was like, wait, I was thinking in my head, what the fuck's going on? What is this? And this and that. And it probably distracted me from a lot of the little cues that was in the movie. And anybody who watches this movie, by the way, warning, This is not for everyone. I don't want people coming back and saying, well, Travis Bruce from the horror room recommended this fucking shit and I'm traumatized. No, listen, this is not for majority of people.
Yeah.
This is for, yes, underground hardcore horror fans, which I'm not even an underground hardcore horror fan, but I respect the art of this. And it's a beautiful made movie through and throughout. But, and I forgot what I'm about to say. No, but even, I mean, but no, watching the first time, it was like more like a what the fuck experience. And I think that's what most people, first time watching it, it's gonna be what the fuck, where's this going? Who's that? What's that? This and that. There's a lot of questions. Your brain is going in like rapid speed, trying to process everything that's happening. The second time around might be you know what's gonna, all the shock stuff is gone at that point. You know what's coming. Now you can actually probably focus on exactly the cues and the actual meaning to this madness.
You got it right. I mean, in fact, most people actually watch Dariuss. They're not even hardcore horror fans. It's ironic if you think about it, because the film, it does contain horror. Obviously, it's not comedy. But whether or not is a 100% a horror film, I have my doubts, because traditional horror, it's something else. I spoke to people who watched the film who are not even into horror, actually. They say, horror is not my cup of tea. I do watch some horror occasionally, but I'm not into horror 100%. I'm more into the transgressive stuff, or dark erotica, or art movies, but not horror as such. And yet,
this is definitely an art movie. This is definitely an art movie. It's an art movie with horror elements and disturbing images.
Yeah. It does have all of that. That's why you're absolutely 100% right when you say it's not for everybody, and that's exactly my point. I didn't make this film number one with the intention of having an immediate box office. I made this film for the future, for those people in the future who are going to watch it for the first time in 5, 10, 15 years from now, independent reviewers such as yourself, the young generation, the years to come, watching the film and going like, what the fuck? Let's talk about this film, and number one. Number two, I didn't make this film for people who climax with Scream 4. Because, not disrespect for people who like Scream 4, that's down to individual, but you cannot have an orgasm if you're eating a burger and at the same time if you're eating lettuce. If you're a vegan, there's no way you can have an orgasm with beef, which is something completely opposite, different. Dariuss is not the work of a horror thing. It's the result of the filmmaker and his vision of madness, which does involve horror. It does involve hardcore depravity, but it's not neither. You cannot call this film an erotic film because it's not. And you cannot call this film a traditional horror film because it's not. But it does have both. And yet it's neither. It's a very difficult thing to judge and box into one specific area because it's so ambiguous. And it's more shocking and terrifying, ironically, than most horror films, even though it's not a traditional horror film. And yet it does disturb the audience a lot more. I had people also in the past, independent reviewers, who refused to review the film because one in particular, I remember, because he said to me, I don't even know where to start reviewing this film.
But that's why, like, I think you asked me to do a review, and I was like, I can't do a review of this. I can give people a explanation on what it. I can't even give an explanation of what it is. Like, if somebody asked me right now, what is this movie about? I could give them images that I've seen in the movie, but I can't describe what the fucking movie is. And like here in the States, like the most horror fans, say the most disturbing movie is the Terrifier series, right? But the Terrifier series those movies are not really scary. Those movies are more just a visual gore fest, disturbing. It's disturbing just for the actual gore fest for what you're actually experiencing. But the cinematography, I mean, not the cinematography, the score, the actual art behind it is not scary. So, like, if you were thinking in your mind, Terrifier series is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen, and you went into this movie, you'd be setting yourself up for failure. You know what I mean? Because this movie is just not a visually disturbing movie just because of gore. It's a visually disturbing movie on so many different factors. Just boom, boom, boom. I mean, is the poor cat okay?
The cat is fine. It's actually my own cat. Yeah.
Okay.
Stella. Yeah.
but it's just disturbing it's just not the gore that's disturbing. It's the fucking those sounds you're talking about. Those sounds of the water dripping, the horse, the man masturbating, and it shoots over to Tommy Pickles from Rugrats. It's like, what the fuck? It's like you were talking about the masturbation and this. It's just disturbing on so many. It's hitting you at so many different angles that a movie like Terrifier just hitting you one angle, boom. And like, so if you're an American, you're basing your, oh well, Travis is fucking crazy. I've seen Terrifier and Terrifier 2. That is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen. And you go into seeing Dariuss, it's gonna fuck you up.
You see, I think I think the way I see it, Dariuss, is like an experiment where the viewer is being asked to wear big headphones, with one constant sound on that never stops.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time is watching a series of images, and at the same time someone is masturbating him, and at the same time someone is sodomizing him, and at the same time someone is tickling him, and at the same time someone is spraying perfume all over the room. So you can imagine a person in that specific condition, after a few minutes, he goes completely mad between pleasure, torture, confusion, and anything else. There are films that relies on jump scare techniques only, which to me it's pure total fucking trash. It's easy to do that. A man's farting can cause that. But to create a film and to build constantly the state of anxiety without showing, that is what the difficult is. How can you make the viewer how can you put the viewer in a state of anxiety without showing him directly something yet? That takes a long, that takes hard work, Travis, because before the film shows strong graphic images, you go through at least 25 minutes of film. So, and yet, from the very moment the film starts with the baby crying,
and you hear the snap, that horrible. It is like a disturbing snap noise.
Yes.
And from that moment on, just even with the girl in the playground, nothing even happens, but the fucking music, it's just, you, in your mind, you're like, you read my review. I said, you're going into a fucking dark pit and you want to fucking stay there.
Yes.
Like, and you want to fucking stay there, and you feel guilty for watching what the fuck you're watching, but you kind of crave more. And has you questioning your own fucking sanity.
Yes, I mean, the idea, you actually hit the nail on the spot. I actually told Ila, the actress, repeatedly at that time during the editing stage. I actually said to her, oh, today we've been editing the film. We've been editing this film for about 9 months. So it was actually hard work. And often during the editing, I got sexually aroused by looking at my own actress doing things. Now, an imbecile will call that, oh, the man is sick. But the one who's not an imbecile will say, what a beautiful thing. The creator is falling in love with his own creation, which is the film. You know, and I'm falling in love with everything the film does offer. And again, I bring the example of Marquise de Sade because it's too late to have taboos. Once you have the pleasure in watching something that you feel guilty about it, you're not gonna stop. You want to continue, and I find the film extremely sad at times, and then very powerful at times, and then at times very scary. But the one thing that is constantly there is that sense of dysfunctionality. Everybody in the film is deeply dysfunctional, and everybody in the film express himself or herself in a very insane, abnormal way due to the loss of this little girl, finding refuge in masturbation, drug using, alcohol, same-sex activity, incest, everything. And the film also shows a childlike nature of every character. You see little puppets in the film, you see drawings, you see adult people behaving like children, talking like children, behaving like children, and then killing with such frenzy that you go like, hang on a minute, you know, he's a grown-up child. How can he do that? And yet he does it. And that is the mad element. The fact that nothing is predictable. And I wanted to make a film exactly the way it turned out to be. an experience. An experience. I think that's the best way to put it. It's not for everybody. It's an experience. And I didn't make this film for everybody. I don't like to be put in the bunch. That's why this film I made the radical decision not to put it in any video on demand platform. It's currently on Blu-ray, and soon it will be also on DVD. So if you want to watch it, you will have to buy it in a traditional fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But forget about video on demand platform, because you're not gonna see my film next to fucking, I don't know, some supernatural horror crap made on CGI. There's no way. If you want to fuck a good horror, you need to pay for it. You can't just go in the local supermarket and buy 4 for the price of 1.
No, you can't.
That's my attitude, you know. And I wanted Dariuss to be an exclusive product. Exclusive, as the word says, means it does exclude a good chunk of people out of the picture. And I didn't make this film for everybody, Travis. I made this film for those who are really interested in experiencing something different. I didn't make this film for those who masturbate when they watch, you know, CGI horror, or whatever else.
But if you're going to experience this movie, if I was going to make a recommendation, this is a movie you watch in the fucking pitch fucking dark, and you get, like you said, you could put some headphones on, or if you got a good surround sound, crank that bad boy up and just immerse yourself into it, because just the visual and the sounds, it just fucking captures you. And I think, I mean, that's some of the most disturbing parts of the movie is the sound. I mean, the sound is just so visual. It's just like we were talking about the baby and the cracking, the noise. It just made my skin crawl. And I'm a horror fan, you know, I'm a horror fan. By the way, listen, I'm doing this whole horror awards things, horror awards. I'm not even going to put up the nominations for this. Dariuss has won the most disturbing movie of 2023. By the way, it is. I'm not even doing nominations. I'm not even doing what's called this. You already won the award. Because this is the most disturbing thing I've ever fucking seen.
Thank you. Thank you.
And but what was I saying? No, but this is something that, like, whoa. And let me tell you the most disturbing part of this movie. And I'm not doing any spoilers or anything, but the most disturbing part of this movie, and it had nothing. I've seen a lot of disturbing shit for this whole entire movie. It was at the very end. There's a message that flashes on the fucking screen, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Are you referring to
syphilis?
Madness and syphilis have never been so good?
Yes.
Again, that is mocking the viewer and saying what you've just seen is so sickening, and you've been watching it all the way through.
Yeah.
It's like me playing with the audience, saying you knew that you were watching something so sick, and yet you chose to go all the way down. So it hasn't been so bad, has it? So it's like me almost joking with the audience in a very sarcastic way, because madness, it's about a mental state, and syphilis is a disease of, you know, that comes from sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Unprotected sexuality. So you've been having all this unprotected sex, and you've been doing all these kind of weird stuff. Perhaps if you were a woman, you were slightly wet at some point, or if you were a man, you had maybe a hard on at times, which is perfectly okay. I have it when I watch Dariuss, certain parts. It's absolutely normal, but you be naughty. and
Yes.
you're watching it all
Feel
the way
guilty.
through.
You
So
feel
that
guilty.
is my way to kind of joke it with the audience and say,
Yes.
gotcha.
Because that's my ultimate thing I was saying was I felt guilty after watching it, but I watched it.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
watched the whole hour and 1 minute of it.
Yeah.
I knew I was watching something bad in the first 5 minutes, and I continued watching.
That's exactly the point. The film does continue after the final credits, as you know,
Yes.
for a few more seconds, indicating that the film actually continues even after the film actually ends. The film actually continues at the same time. It's a way to tell you, look, what you've just seen is not going to be shown now anymore. I mean, from now on, the film stops here, but in reality, what is going on continues after the film. So it's a way to, again, trigger the mind of the viewer and say, okay, the film ends here. It's only an hour and 2 minutes. But just so you know, whoever is doing that is actually doing it for real, as we are talking right now at this present time, is doing that somewhere else. And then he moves on and on and on. And yeah, it triggers various things in people's minds. And I use locations for the outside shots without permits. Especially there's an old building which I had access and start putting little girls' pants and panties and children's toys all over and start filming. And if I would have got caught, I would have been in serious legal trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I put a chrono watch, 2 minutes, hand camera, torchlight. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I managed to had access in this place. I placed all the items, start shooting, grab everything, one shot, one take, off you go, and disappear into the dark. And the cemetery, the same thing. You see a graveyard in the beginning of the film, same thing, unauthorized access. So the film actually was made with a very renegade spirit of guerrilla filmmaking. Me, my camera, and nobody else, because I had to be able to run as fast as possible. I can't have a crew of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people, especially if one of them is perhaps overweight, because they can't run.
Mm-hmm.
So the point was to do all the outside shots on my own, come back home, put it on the computer, and then when the indoor shot were made, that was more relaxing because we used the real house for the inside shots, and so it was much more relaxing. But yeah, and even the actress who plays the female lead, this is something I actually never said to anybody. She used a second name and appears in the beginning of the film as the pregnant woman. It's the same actress, but with a different name. And the reason why I've done that, for budget reasons, was because if the actress would have used the same name, people would have got confused about the roles. But the two roles are two complete separate roles. Pregnant of whom? The future person that in the film does ABC, or pregnant of the little girl, which we see in the film, or pregnant of the man who later will become blah, 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 blah.
It just leaves it wide open. It just leaves it
Exactly.
Wide
Exactly.
open. Now, I got one last question. Actually, I got two questions, but I'm trying to think which one should I ask. Okay, I'm gonna ask this one. I think this is the best question. All right. So in the beginning of the interview, you were talking about when you were making this movie, it was a came from the hallucination, from the trance. Tell us what that experience looked like for you to get to that point with the hallucination and the trance to get this idea for this movie.
My mind works a lot um, with music, meaning that if I listen to a particular piece of music, I have automatically hallucinations. I have a huge problem with numbers. I guess you can classify me as a numerical dyslexic person. My brain doesn't seem to work with numbers, but it does work perfectly and create a whole universe in his mind with images by simply listening to a piece of music. And when I started writing Dariuss, I was listening to the music of my previous band called Monoxide, which the music has been used in the film. The music you hear in the film, 90% of the music is from my own ex-band, Monoxide, which is instrumental, psychedelic, and I've been listening to that with the headphones and having real hallucinations and writing things down about these characters. And then when the music was over, the hallucinations were over. But whatever I experienced was written on paper. And once it was on paper, then I started to work on it. I had something to work on because it's been immortalized on paper. But this was not a film originally conceived with the idea, okay, let's create ABC story. No, this was literally putting the headphones, and listening to music, having hallucinations, enter a state of trance, and let my mind go wild. I got sexually aroused during these hallucinations a lot. I had multiple orgasms when I had these hallucinations.
Without touching yourself? Without touching yourself?
Without touching myself, just the mind. It was just the mind. And the more I was involved, the more I thought, what the fuck is this? Whatever it is, I need to write everything down, because if I don't, it would be gone. And that's what happened. I started writing things down on paper, and I had over 20, 30 pieces of paper. And then once the trance was over, I could work on it with a more sober mind. In fact, the film is very much like vignettes. It's like little bubbles of storytelling elements all put together. It's a very childlike oriented way of writing a film, because if you ask a child, what have you seen today, he or she will tell you bits of what he's seen today.
Mm-hmm.
It is not like an adult, which will tell you from the beginning to end. This film is very infantile in a way that it seems to be written by a 5-year-old child, but clearly in a state of trance, whether it is drugs, which is not the case, or real madness that for a moment happened to be right there at the right time And whoever was receiving this information, again, the same filmmaker who created this, myself, was aware of this. And that's why I started writing things down, because I knew if I didn't write things down, it would have been lost completely. And it would have been impossible to recreate that. So all I've done basically was just copy and paste from my mind what I was envisioning, and then later on grabbing the camera, going to places and trying to recreate what I had in mind. And then once the film was over, in terms of shooting material, the most difficult part was yet to come, which was the editing, which took about 9 months, nearly a year, to edit this film. And like I said, it caused me 3 mental breakdowns because I just didn't know how to get close to the original hallucination that I had, which in my head, it's still crystal clear. But because I was working in partnership with my collaborator, I had to bring him at my level of vision,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't easy, but eventually I made it. And we worked, me and Fabrizio Lamonica, Archibald Kane in the film, so closely that we became one item. And we worked from distance because he worked from Sicily, from Italy, online, using softwares. So obviously we were working from distance 2, sometimes 3 nights a week. Each session was between 2 and 3 hours. And I had to say, no, I want this scene to be cut. No, I want this scene to be put on fast forward, then repeated, 6,000 frames per second, and things that in terms of cinema are not normal. This film was made more like an instrumental / experimental studio album with multiple tracks. Real live audio was killed off in most of the film, and everything was digitally recreated during the editing, from the voice of the actress or voices of the actors to any sound that you hear in the film was artificially, digitally recreated later. So nothing was kept of the original live audio sound material. Nothing, almost nothing was kept. And that's why it was so difficult, was to recreate a whole universe now with sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't about having actors performing with a microphone and then everything being recorded and then putting in the film. No, this was a matter of making the film visually and then making the same film from scratch again, sound-wise. So it was like doing the same job 3 times, because we had 4 stages for this film: shooting, cutting, edit, and finally, 4th and last, post-production, checking all the details, doing all the little improvements. And those little tiny details, which probably for most filmmakers would mean spending a couple of weeks at most, for us was 3 months, because there were millions of those tiny details that I wanted to touch up, modify, change, until it was just perfect according to the vision I originally had. And it became that eventually, but after nearly a year of work.
So I'm going to ask you this final question. I'm going to ask you this final question. I am a good when it comes to reading people's body language and interacting with them and, analyzing people. And you are a unicorn, because the most people say in this world, I don't give a fuck what other people think about me, right? They're full of shit, including myself. I do think I do care about what people think about. I care about who, depends on the individual. How freeing is it to not give a fuck what anybody thinks about you? 'Cause I sense that about you, and it's strong that you you don't care if people judge you for your work, the way you think, your creativity. You don't give a fuck, and that must be so freeing. Tell me how is that freeing? Is it a great state to just not give a fuck?
It's an incredible sense of artistic freedom, Travis. I always use extreme examples. If I have to be in all of my work, I play a part as an actor. Again, in one of my previous works, a medium-length horror film called The Censor, a British horror tale of real politics and social moral code, I get sodomized by another man. And I walk out in the woods completely naked at night with my bum, wide open, broken, because I've been fucked up and fucked over all night by another man, which happened to be an old man. Again, I risked to be arrested during that scene because I was filming myself doing that scene, and the danger was that I could be arrested for public obscenity, filming without permits, and blah 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 blah. That is one aspect, but again, once you decide in your mind that you want to become a storyteller, free from any taboo, you don't really give a fuck. I can give somebody else, obviously, not for real, but in the film, I can give somebody a blowjob. I don't give a flying fuck if the film requires that. Yeah, and that's why I'm so clear with actresses, because I say, if I don't have a problem, you should be even more wild and open about the vision that I have and that I want to, bring into the picture. So again, people who work with me, like my technical collaborator, which will be working again as a editing assistant in my next work, he knows how I work, how meticulous I am, to the point of being OCD for details. But at the same time, he knows what I asked to the actresses, which are 3 for my next film. And he's aware of what I told them to do, what I want them to do in the film. And they all are willing to go down that road. They go like, okay, fuck it. You want it? You got it. Yeah, it's an incredible sense of freedom. If someone watches Dariuss or any of my previous works, as in short films, or my future feature film, which is called The Benefactress, and start being judgmental, then my attitude is, you're jealous because you don't have the balls to be intellectually and artistically free. You don't have the courage, if you're a woman, to do a role like some of these actresses, because deep inside you would like to be playing a role like that, but you're too fucking scared to do it. Or if you're a man, maybe your cock is not big enough, and therefore you're, many different reasons. The way I see it is, if you want to be artistically free, then just do it. Just do it. Just do it, and don't give a fuck about other people's judgment, because if you make the choice of being a storyteller, it's like being a painter or a sculpture maker. You don't want to stop, any red zone. You just go whatever your vision is. At least that's for me. And not only that, um, I don't want my cinema, specifically Dariuss, which is my baby, my film, my actual film, feature film. I don't want my film to be put in the same bunch as some of the horror crap I've been seeing over the last few years.
Because one of the big things is a lot of horror directors now, like the new breed, are against putting nudity in horror movies. And I grew up in the 80s, and even back then, nudity is part of horror. It is. But it's like they don't want to offend someone. But isn't horror meant to be offensive?
The way I see it, again, it goes. I always use sexuality as a metaphor. It's like saying, okay, let's have sex. But sorry, I don't do anal. Sorry, I don't do blowjobs. Sorry, I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't do that. Then what's left? You might as well do it yourself. Horror, just like anything else. In fact, people who call themselves horror filmmakers, I think they still need to figure themselves out, because there's no such thing as horror filmmaker. There's only filmmakers. Then they can choose to do horror and other things, or to do just horror. But before you are horror, you have to be a filmmaker. And being a filmmaker, from my standpoint, means being a free artist. If you work and you start your work already with a set of rules, that I don't do. To me, you're nothing but a fucking moron. I remember I had an argument with a lady, an English filmmaker, a woman who had a resume of films, collaboration. She went to a British film school, and I've been watching her stuff, and I actually told her, you are a good technician, but anyone can do your stuff. Anyone. And she got offended. Oh, I've been studying in the British film school of such and such and such. And I say, okay, but anybody can do your stuff. Anybody. In film schools, you don't get taught to be original. If you are original, you are original no matter what. If you lack of originality, you can go to the best film school in the world. You were a moron and you still remain a moron, only with technical knowledge. That's how I see it. And to be a filmmaker and to say, I don't want to offend people, I don't want to do that, because there's different level of offending people. If you are offending people deliberately because you want to be deliberately offensive, say for instance, I'm Italian, okay, and you're black, and if I make a film saying, oh, I don't like Italians, I think they are blah 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 blah, I don't like blacks, I think they are blah blah, just for the sake of provoking, well, I understand that. Yeah. But if you make a film which touches subjects which automatically, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how you do it, how you say it, there will always be a moron who's gonna go like, oh, I feel offended, and fuck you, that's your problem. You're not gonna stop that filmmaker from saying what he has to say just because it does not conform with an agenda of political correctness where vaginas cannot be shown, hard cocks cannot be shown, because it's a bad example for kids. Kids should not even be looking at this stuff. Kids should be watching Mickey Mouse. If you're so worried about your child watching this stuff, your child should be in fucking bed. He should be sleeping, and you should be with him too, That's my approach to it, and it's very wild. But again, if you choose to be a filmmaker, you should not be too concerned about that. I do know Dariuss is not for everybody, and again, thank God, because if it's for everybody, I always use this as an example. I'm not Steven Spielberg. I'm not here to please people, where everybody at the end go like, and then after 5 minutes you collect the Oscar. I don't do that. I didn't become a filmmaker to receive, well done, William Metropolitan. No, I decided to become a filmmaker. So whoever is potentially interested in watching what I had to show could do it out of choice. And not everybody's going to like it. I accept that. That's part of the game. But nobody can say I am a hypocrite, that I do what I do in order to be liked or disliked, or either way. If you can't be honest with your own artwork, then what's left?
Well spoke. So, Gorilla, where can everybody find you, my friend?
Well, I have a YouTube channel called Guerrilla Metropolitana, which contains my early works, which are short horror films, and the trailer of Dariuss. The actual film Dariuss is currently on sale on Blu-ray for a company called SRS Cinema, and it will also be available in the next few months as a self-distribution on DVD. It will not be put on video on demand platform. It will be available, like I say, it's currently available on the SRS Cinema website, and in the future, Amazon, eBay, as a DVD. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook as Chris Politana, which is a fake name, simply because Facebook will not allow me to put Guerrilla Metropolitana, which is my alias. And my next work will be a short horror film, a minor work about corporate greed, and sodomy, called Corporate Torment. But then after that, I will return with my second feature film called The Benefactress, again for distribution, just like Dariuss. And it will be in about a year time from now. But if you go on Google and you search Guerrilla Metropolitana, you will find me in many different places. Reviews from United States, Britain, Italy, a lot of them, France, different countries, but primarily United States. Your country, because it's such a big country. I mean, United States, it dominates the market. And because it's such a
100%.
big country, there's a space for everybody. There's a bubble for everybody because it's such a big market. And thank God. God bless America.
Greatest country in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Gorilla, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, man. Thanks for fucking me up by watching your disturbing movie. Everybody, it's definitely one of the most disturbing movie of 2023.
Thank you so much, Travis.
You're welcome. Everybody, please go on to SRS Productions and grab your copy of the Blu-ray of Dariuss. By the way, it's not for everyone. Put that disclaimer out there. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the horror. I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Travis. Thank you for having me.